your reaction to the latest response from Iran?
Well, obviously, it's incredibly worrisome, and the possibility for escalation to full-scale war remains potent. I hope that the White House is restraining itself. This crisis with Iran is of their making. The United States has walked right into this problem, and I think it's not too late to back out of it by refraining from a belligerent response to this attack, which was utterly predictable. I think it was a terrible decision to leave U.S. troops in Iraq to absorb what are now predictable attacks.
Benjamin, David here. I'm right beside Yvonne here in Hong Kong. I'm just curious, how would you describe and characterize the response of Iran in terms of it being proportionate? That's a question. It being perhaps symbolic? That's perhaps another part of the question.
It may turn out that it was largely symbolic. You know, last I heard there were 15 missiles fired, maybe 11 of them hit. 10 of them hit al-Assad, 1 hit Erbil, 4 failed, but we don't know what they hit. We don't know if they intentionally fired in a way that was meant to do the most damage, or if they tried to do airstrikes, missile strikes that would show that they weren't going to be knocked around, but were not intended to do a lot of damage in a way that would seem to avoid, at least try to avoid further escalation. So it remains to be seen. But I think the United States left Iranian leaders in a position where it was almost impossible for them, for domestic political reasons, because of pride, because of their feelings about deterrence, which might be flawed, but are feelings nonetheless, that they had to do something. So they may have tried to thread the needle here and do something, so they weren't going to stand for it, but something that wouldn't necessarily lead to further U.S. strikes.
Benjamin, does Iran have the capabilities to stage an all-out confrontation, or the economy we've already seen has been deteriorating already due to U.S. sanctions? How far can they see this through?
Well, the Iranians are no match for the United States conventionally, but you know, the United States at the same time only has a few forces, a relatively small number of forces in the region, 6,000 in Iraq, more nearby. Certainly we have the capability to bomb Iran a great deal, but Iran has 80 million people. They have proxies around the region. They have a lot of nationalism that will make it hard for them to surrender in the event of a war. So certainly a ground conflict when the United States entered Iran would be exceptionally dangerous for the United States and could lead to costs, even if Iran's military is totally outmatched, that would be substantially more than the Iraq war.
Benjamin, just final question. Do you think the response from Iran, do you think we've seen it? And equally, what would you be telling Donald Trump right now in terms of how he might want to de-escalate this, if in case that's what the White House is thinking?
Well, I don't know if we've seen the full extent of the response from Iran. I hope so, and I hope, as I said, that they've tried to do something that threads this needle and does something that's of limited damage so that they can get out of it with their pride without a major war. But and that's to go to your second question. What I would tell the president, that you made your point by killing Soleimani, and now it's time to back down. I mean, if you say you don't want a war, you need to stop listening to the people in your cabinet, like Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State, and others who seem eager to pull us into a war, and start listening to anyone who has an idea about how to avoid it. And I think one way to avoid it is to keep your powder dry here and then start withdrawing U.S. forces from Iraq, as the Iraqis have demanded that we do.